utter brutality of how she was killed was among the worst I've ever seen as a crime reporter.
A brutal killing.
She tried to escape out of her bedroom window.
What happened to her in her house, that shouldn't happen to anybody.
A dark mystery with multiple suspects.
I think everyone assumed almost from the start that the killer knew the victim somehow.
He kind of had an infatuation with Kim Dorsey.
Based on all this information, his story's coming apart.
The truth will be revealed.
I just couldn't imagine the terror that she was experiencing. Her last words were, "Stop, you're killing me."
Every day in North America, dozens of people are murdered. The key to solving the toughest of these homicides lies in the final 24 hours of the victim's life. To crack the case, detectives must reconstruct that critical timeline. The minutes and hours containing evidence that can help unlock the mystery and catch the killer. The gated communities of Jacksonville, Florida, are a haven of tranquility and affluence.
The area is absolutely gorgeous. You have, $500,000 homes. It has a small town feel. A lot of people know one another.
It's a very nice neighborhood, viewed as very safe. There's not a lot of crime there.
But on a quiet Sunday morning, all that is shattered.
Kim. Oh, you got him now.
Jacksonville, what's going?
Please send ambulance back.
Firefighter Derek Dorsey has just returned home from work to discover his wife Kim's motionless body.
Are you with her right now?
Yes, I am. Send rescue.
We are sending rescue. Is she awake?
No, she's not. I think she's dead.
He performed CPR on her. He's been working with the fire department for almost 20 years at this point, so he's seen a lot of things. He knows what to do, in an emergency. However, now the emergency is right in his bedroom.
You can actually hear kind of the waves of emotion. It was obvious to me that all that training and experience just kind of went out the door.
Okay, sir, tell me exactly what happened.
I don't know. She tried to commit suicide. Send rescue.
We are sending rescue. You have to tell me exactly what she did. What happened?
I don't know. She either cut herself or something. I can't see. I'm trying to figure it out.
After performing CPR for several minutes, Derek realizes it's too late.
Infantry 7. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Lead investigator Larry Kuskowski and his team, along with Assistant State's Attorney London Kite, arrive at the scene.
The call itself was called in as a possible suicide. But the violence that was evident in the room, one person couldn't do this to themselves. There's a large amount of blood on the floor, on the walls. There's blood on the ceiling. You just knew whatever happened here was very, very violent.
The scene just in and of itself was like, absolutely not, this is not a suicide. When the husband found his wife, he put the comforter over her body. So all I could see really was her foot and her arm. And then when the medical examiner got there, that's when they removed the comforter and exposed the brutality of what happened to her.
It's a tragic end to 38-year-old Kim Dorsey's life.
Kim Dorsey owned a business in the area, very well respected. She seemed like a wonderful person, and it seemed like she had an ideal marriage. people seem to have nothing but good things to say about her.
Well, why would anybody ever do something like this?
Investigators turned to her husband, Derek, to reconstruct the last 24 hours of Kim's life.
Derek told us he had gone to work the previous morning. The fire department works 24-hour shifts. When he comes home Sunday morning, shortly after 8 o'clock, he walks in the bedroom expecting to find his wife, in bed.
They had blackout curtains, so it was very dark in there.
He finds her on the floor at the foot of the bed. He goes, calls 911.
But by that point, Kim is already dead. And the team believes she had been for nearly 24 hours. Not far from Kim's body are the first clues to what happened.
There were plastic wire ties around Kim's ankles and in her wrists. Somebody tried to bind her up. I just figured there's probably a sexual assault here, based on what I saw. There was a broken pool cue on the floor. A gun was on the floor. There was a knife on the floor, all in the vicinity of her body. And there's bullet strikes in the wall and in the door frame in the bedroom. So if somebody was in the bedroom shooting out, did we know who shot? No, not yet. So there were a lot of things that needed to be explained.
Investigators fan out to examine the rest of the Dorsey's home.
Someone had gone through ransacking the kitchen, opened drawers, throwing stuff out of the drawers. Definitely someone looking for something. In the kitchen sink, there's 3 or 4 remotes in there and a keyboard that's part of this surround sound system, which was very odd. There was no damage to the front door that indicated that the door was forced open in any way. But I did notice something that was out of place. There was a ceramic dog statue by the front door, and it was tipped over. You have to take notice of things. During the course of the investigation, you are going over, inch by inch and foot by foot, just to make sure that you're covering everything.
They quickly come to their first conclusion.
The idea that some stranger would break into the house, tie someone up with zip ties, stab them, and beat them with a pool cue, that's just not the way it goes.
Kim Dorsey probably knew her attacker, or the attacker knew how to get into the home.
The simple fact is that you're much more likely to be killed by someone you know than by a stranger. And I think police understand that.
They need to drill down into Derek Dorsey's story.
Anytime a wife is murdered, the husband is a suspect. That's just a fact.
Derek, at this point, had been taken from the scene down to the detective division in downtown Jacksonville. After I walked the scene, I went downtown then to interview Derek.
Derek, I'm Larry Koskowski. It's difficult right now, a lot going on, but I need to talk to you, okay? I gotta get some information from you, okay?
I had him take me through the weekend. He told me on Friday night, Kim had left the house that evening for a couple hours to go do some shopping. They had stayed home Friday night, watched a movie. Derek was up early Saturday morning, and he left for work at about his usual time, right around 7, a little after 7 o'clock Saturday morning. Derek finished his shift on Sunday morning at 8 o'clock. So when he's gone for that 24-hour period, his wife was home by herself. He had tried to call her on Saturday several times via cell phone. Derek worked at a fire station that was about as far north as you could go in the county. The cell phone coverage out there wasn't always the greatest, and the call wouldn't go through. He said that it was not unusual for him not to have those calls answered.
So far, Everything Derek is telling them adds up, with one exception.
Here's a guy that's, trained professional, and we walk in and recognize the scene. This is no suicide. How did he not see that? Is Derek involved?
The one thing that I remember about Derek Dorsey is that he was so transparent. I've never seen someone as transparent as him.
He opened up to me. He took a deep breath and sighed, and he said, well, there's a lot, going on with both of us. He told me that him and Kim basically had just a different kind of a relationship. It was somewhat of a swinging lifestyle. So it went from not really knowing to, okay, now we have maybe some other factors going on here. I wasn't expecting that. But Derek then added on at that, he said, that Kim had stopped doing it because her mother had died 3 or 4 years earlier. Part of her way of coping with her mother's death. She sought out professional medical help, and she was on some medication that caused her to put on some weight and, maybe not feel quite as attractive as she maybe had at one time. That was one of the reasons Derek thought that when he first came home, that she had committed suicide.
With Kim having stopped the swinging lifestyle, they need to find out if Derek had too.
He was very subdued. He was very matter of fact. So I finally asked him, I said, well, listen, is there anybody else?
Any issues, where either one of you stepping out, girlfriend on your behalf or boyfriend on hers? Okay, you got a girlfriend? Okay.
When an investigator learns that the partner of the deceased had been cheating on each other in the relationship, that creates a different mindset for the investigator. In domestic-type murders, infidelity is often part of the motive of someone's death.
The admission of infidelity has made Derek Dorsey the first suspect in his wife's murder.
As an investigator, okay, step back, be careful, make sure you're really asking a lot of good questions of Derek, because this might be your one chance to do it, or he's speaking freely. Get as much information as you can to find out what's going on here.
Okay, you got a girlfriend? Okay, and who's that? Well, we're gonna find out.
We have a weird relationship.
Who has you and your wife?
My wife, it's not a don't ask, don't tell thing, but
Tell me about it.
she knows who I was when she married me.
Now you've added some more motive, maybe. Maybe he wants out of this marriage.
They seek to determine what he would have gained with Kim gone.
We always look for, is there a financial benefit to this person's death? Larry did ask him about whether he had any kind of insurance policy, and he didn't. It put him in a worse position to have Kim Dorsey die before him, because she was the main breadwinner.
But that doesn't mean Derek wasn't responsible.
We thought about the time frame, like how much time he would have to drive back and forth from the fire station to the house.
The distance between the two locations is 15 miles and would take almost an hour round trip.
The fire station where he worked was small. They pretty much could account for every single minute of his day. All the firefighters were like, look, if he left that place, then we would definitely know. The detectives verified with all the firefighters. They determined that he had like a lock-solid alibi. Even though Derek Dorsey initially was a suspect, we just couldn't find any kind of crack in his account.
Investigators then consider the other angle.
So, you have this girlfriend that he's talked about. Maybe whoever his girlfriend, lover, whatever you want to call that person, wants the current wife out of the picture. Obviously, now we want to talk to her.
In the event that it's a love triangle, that someone may feel, for example, that they've been wronged by somebody, that they were promised something. I'll leave my wife, I'll leave my husband for you. Someone being jilted can be a very strong factor for murder.
We were also looking into the girlfriend to see if she had any additional information that Dorsey didn't tell us, and also to see if he had ever admitted anything to her.
Detective Kuskowski must determine if Derek's girlfriend shows up anywhere in the last 24 hours of the victim's life.
She was very forthcoming. She spilled her guts about the lifestyle, what everybody was into, and all that. I was able to determine that she was west of the city of Jacksonville, where she resides, and I was able to rule her out.
Hoping to uncover clues about Kim's attacker, investigators return to the crime scene.
Specialists such as blood spatter analysts may be called in certain circumstances where it's not obvious to the investigators what has happened and who is involved, and they need more information, more data to help them discern what exactly took place. It's important to try to figure out the puzzle of what was the sequence of events. Where did the struggle initiate and where did it end? Because it tells you the story of what happened. It tells you the timeline of what happened.
Forensic experts established that the first point of attack is next to the nightstand.
We have a lot of blood cast off on that left side of the bed. She was severely injured, and she stayed there for a significant period of time.
But the evidence then suggests Kim comes to and fights back.
She was able to get to where she kept her gun. It was a 5-shot revolver.
They wanted to know whether I thought it would be probative or helpful to have them string it, which means to show the actual bullet trajectory, and I told them absolutely yes. Kim Dorsey had to be down and low near her nightstand. She fired off 5 shots.
Shooting at somebody that maybe is standing in the doorway or coming back to the doorway.
The strings reveal that despite firing all 5 rounds, Kim misses her attacker.
Trying to explain 5 bullet holes, therefore 5 misses, there's a number of reasons. Fear is the #1 problem. People freeze. We don't know how we're going to react in a state of emergency until we're into it. And it's not surprising that your aim is the last thing you're able to control.
And then that's when he goes back into the room to finish her off. He continued to beat her with a pool cue to the point in which it broke. We actually had the pool cue given to an engineer, and it took a tremendous amount of force to break a pool cue like that, and that was broken on Kim's body. To finish things off, he made sure that he stabbed her in the neck.
The detailed analysis provides all new insights into the crime and the potential perpetrator.
The most telling weapon would have been that pool cue, which all of them were kept upstairs, and that's not a natural weapon for someone to say, yeah, I want to go kill this person, so I'm gonna grab a pool cue.
We were able to figure out that the wire ties that were found on Kim's wrist and ankle, it looked like they came from the office upstairs.
And the knife was from a set that were inside the kitchen.
These were all things that suggest that whoever committed this crime was familiar with the house.
A brutal killer who knew Kim well enough to gain entry into her home and where to find weapons. For investigators, it suggests someone close to the family.
Kim's autopsy had already been performed. We knew she had been sexually assaulted.
We had a foreign male DNA profile, so we knew that we were looking for a man.
Based on what Derek Dorsey had said with other people in the house with the swinging lifestyle, who knows who's been here? Is this somebody that had been there before, that came back knowing Derek wasn't home and wanted to maybe see Kim again? Who knows?
We were looking at all those different individuals to make sure that we either rule them in or rule them out.
Detective Koskowski looks to Derek to provide potential names.
Derek is a general contractor on the side. Some of the guys that Derek used in his contracting business actually lived in the Dorsey house at one time.
Derek Dorsey was basically going through an entire timeline of like kind of who was in and out of the house.
I have one guy that used to work with me, Elvin. Lance Kirkpatrick.
Lance Kirkpatrick had a drug problem. He had been friends with the Dorseys. He was just one of those people who you invite into your house for a weekend, and then 3 months later you'd be trying to get him out. And so he eventually got thrown out of their house.
But according to Derek, that weekend, Lance is on a shrimp boat out in the Atlantic. Second individual that Derek had talked about was a guy by the name of Joshua Veal. Derek had befriended Josh and gave him some work and trying to help him out. He's a young kid. Derek and Kim allowed Joshua to reside in their home, but they had a falling out, and eventually Joshua moved out.
But Derek says he was still hiring Josh for odd jobs and had been due to see him the morning he discovered Kim's body.
Sunday morning when he got off, Derek was going to pick up Joshua Veal. They had agreed to meet at a convenience store up on the north side of Jacksonville, basically to do some work for him.
Joshua Veal never showed up. Why wouldn't he show up for this meeting if he's going to get money and get paid?
He's familiar with the house. He's done some work in the past for the Dorseys. So Josh was number one at that point.
Police discover Veal has a criminal record, mostly for drug-related offenses.
And he had actually just been arrested earlier in that week leading up to the weekend Kim was murdered. So brought him down, put him in an interview room. I didn't tell him anything about a murder. I just introduced myself as a detective.
One of the techniques used is not to tell a loved one or someone close that the person you're asking about is in fact dead or been murdered. Then you drop the bombshell looking for the responses. Are they genuine? Are they fake?
Josh claims he'd been partying all weekend at his house, including the time detectives believe Kim was killed.
But you spent Friday night at the house?
Yeah.
Okay. You didn't go anywhere Friday night? Okay. All right. Saturday you
Yeah,
get up?
we had drank Friday night, we had drank Saturday night.
He had been out Saturday night, and he just lazy, did not show up Sunday morning.
But when Larry mentions Kim's name, his attitude changes.
One of the things that struck me most about Joshua Veal's interview is that he kind of had a fascination or infatuation with Kim Dorsey, kind of like romantic interest. It was strange in that way.
My conversation with him was, when you lived with them, did you and Kim have anything going on, sexual? The way he answered it, it was a little kind of like he didn't, but if he coulda, he woulda.
How'd she look?
1 to 10. Would you ask me if I would hit it?
Sure.
8.
Joshua Veal's infatuation with Kim Dorsey has put him front and center in her murder investigation.
Have you ever had sex with her? Be honest with me.
No, I wish.
You wish?
So I started asking him, if he had talked to Kim recently, and he had. And then I finally said, well, did you hear what happened to her? He's like, no, what are you talking about?
She's dead.
Oh, don't tell me that, man.
just a flow of emotions. I mean, you would think that it was, in fact, his mom that was murdered, and he just couldn't deal with it.
You know anybody that might want to hurt her?
No. No, that was like a mom to me, man. Oh, please.
It was very authentic, and so it kind of X'd him off of my list. But still, you know, they went through and they got his DNA just to make sure that he was not, in fact, involved in the crime. It was negative. He was excluded as a contributor to the DNA.
Derek provides police with additional names of people familiar with his home.
Everybody we talked to, they all gave us the sample, and everyone kept coming back negative, negative, negative.
So Detective Kuskowski takes a new approach.
I want to do a walkthrough of the house with Derek and let him point out anything that maybe we missed, ask some questions about some things that we found before we turn the house back over to him. Because once we're done, we're done. When we initially walked the scene in the kitchen, we found 3 or 4 remotes in the sink. It's part of the surround sound system, which was very odd. Somebody had run water over the remotes. My partner asked him, hey, show us how to turn on the TV here in the living room. So Derek was able to turn the TV on, and right away, a pornographic movie starts to play. Like, wow. And Derek loses it. He's like, that's not mine. Whoever did this, dropping expletives, whoever did this, they watched that. That is not my movie. My belief was that whoever committed the murder at some point sat down and watched this movie.
The discovery points to another man Derek says had recently been to the house.
They were having problems, I think, with the remote or something with their TV system.
Friday in the afternoon, they had a gentleman come over from a sound company that made some adjustments to the surround sound of his entertainment system.
The service call occurred approximately 12 hours before Kim was killed.
So the sound guy was in our crosshairs. He's the guy that knows how to run the system. He worked on the system and wire all these things in the sink. He's thinking in his mind, he puts it in the sink and runs water over it. Does it wash away any DNA or anything like that?
We didn't know if something happened between him and Kim where he maybe became infatuated with her or came back to the house.
Detectives quickly track him down.
So we met with the sound guy. He said, yeah, I went out on Friday night to work on the system. He said it wasn't unusual. He said, Derek's had me at this house before. He had another house that I used to go to and handle his affairs there with the sound system. We noticed when we were sitting there, you know, sound guy had some cuts on his hands. So, we keyed in on those. Were they the results of scratches that, were inflicted in a struggle with another person? We actually asked him about them, and he's like, well, I'm working with wire all the time, and I run it, up in attics, and so, my hands are always cut up.
The technician is adamant he never returned to the house.
We told him what had happened. He wasn't even aware of it, and this was 2 or 3 days after Kim's body was found, so he hadn't even seen anything on the news. Of course, I asked him, if he would volunteer a DNA sample, and he readily, hey, whatever you need. When I walked out of the interview with him, I said, I don't think so.
The DNA test confirms this instinct. The unsolved crime now begins to weigh heavily on the team.
Part of it was we had been up so long at this point, and we had taken samples from so many people. As an investigator and working with the evidence technicians, even if it takes you to a dead end, we need to go down that road, and we need to look at everything. We owe it to Kim, or any victim, that we, thoroughly investigate the entire case.
Then, they get the break they've been looking for.
There was a crime analyst that caught like a common, everyday type of police report on a temporary and unauthorized use of a vehicle.
It's kind of a fancy way of saying the car was stolen, but you let the person take it.
The theft took place just 17 hours before the murder.
So the girl that reported the car stolen made the police report. They took all of her information and, of course, the information of the person who she let use the car, who never returned the car, which was Lance Kirkpatrick.
Lance Kirkpatrick's name came up early on in the investigation when Derek Dorsey was basically going through and kind of who was in and out of the house. During the initial interview with Derek Dorsey, he calls him LJ, and I remember these words very clear. He was like, absolutely not. He would take a bullet for Kim.
Why are you so certain about him?
I just know him long enough. Something like that, no. I think he respected him too much.
Lance is still supposed to be on the shrimp boat. Nothing's adding up now.
That basically put Lance Kirkpatrick back on the map.
A stolen car report forces a familiar name back into focus: Lance Kirkpatrick.
I talked to the girl who reported the vehicle stolen. She laid out basically the activities of her on that Friday night. They were at his apartment on the south side with Lance and some other folks that were there. And Lance had agreed to go out to buy some drugs. And she lets him take the truck. We're talking early Saturday morning now.
And so that's when Lance Kirkpatrick leaves, never to return with that vehicle.
Detectives must determine if the car ever came close to the Dorsey home.
When the police respond to the scene, part of patrol's responsibility was a neighborhood canvass. So in the initial canvass, one of the patrol officers had talked to a neighbor of the Dorseys that said he had seen a blue small SUV out there that day.
This fits the description of the car Kirkpatrick stole.
Fast forward a few days, we got the information about this truck. One of the other mental notes was that there was a surveillance camera at the gate to the community. So, hey, let's go back and look at the video again. Or if it's working, we should have a video of the truck, which we did.
The footage places the SUV directly on the timeline at 6:30 a.m., the morning of the murder.
As soon as the police saw that surveillance video, Lance Kirkpatrick became the #1 suspect.
To locate him, they turned to the woman whose car he stole.
And I said, well, listen, I'm really looking for Lance. Well, she goes, well, I don't know where he is, but I know where a friend of his is named Brian Kiefer. And I said, well, I'd like to talk to Brian. So took him into custody and talked to him about basically his activities and then about Lance Kirkpatrick.
Investigators learned that Brian was at the same house party when the SUV disappeared.
Brian Kiefer says he goes on a night-long taxi ride trying to figure out where Lance Kirkpatrick is because he's one of the ones that let Lance use the car. So he was basically guilty by association. He can't find him, only to find him the following day. He says that Lance looks disheveled. He notices that he has an injury on one of his hands.
What Brian then reveals is completely unexpected.
He tells me that he murdered somebody and is pretty much is going to prison, and there's nothing that can be done about it.
He just said it was a beating. He didn't describe it as we know it to be, which was absolutely horrific and violent.
There are a number of reasons why people, quote, confess to a crime. Primarily, we see it as a guilt complex. People can't wear it, they can't hide it, they can't keep it in. That's the number one reason why people talk. Number two might be alcohol-fueled or drug-fueled, but then you're only getting a part of a story, as a rule. Usually, if a person's hell-bent to tell a friend of theirs, I did this dastardly deed, they're going to tell them some of the details of the murder itself, but not all of it.
I don't know whether he hit her with that pool stick but he kind of emphasized swinging the pool stick.
Okay.
And then he emphasized being shot at 5 times.
And he says, well, you know, Lance told me that he kept waiting for the 6th shot and it never came. But it was a 5-shot revolver.
But when he heard the window open, he thought the lady was going out through the window. So he ran in there and beat her with his hand and then stabbed her.
It is also through Brian Kiefer that we get Kim Dorsey's last words.
What does he say? Does he say that she was dead, or does he say anything about that?
He said the lady was saying, "Stop. You're killing me."
The detail Brian provides about his friend's actions is abnormally specific.
And it was information that only somebody that was there would have known. So Brian is, immersed himself in the middle of a homicide potentially based on all this information. He's saying Lance did it. Well, how do I know Brian didn't do it?
Brian Kiefer claims he knows who killed Kim Dorsey. But there's only one way to confirm if he's telling the truth. Find Lance Kirkpatrick.
Brian tells us last he saw Lance was at Brian's apartment on the south side of Jacksonville. So we had our law enforcement go over there and pay that apartment a visit. And they found Lance hiding in the attic.
The man once thought to be at sea finally sits down with Detective Kuskowski.
All right. Look, Lance, have a seat over there, okay? This will make it a little bit easier.
He was calm, so I was trying to set the stage, just getting to know Lance a little bit more.
Again, careful not to mention Kim's murder.
You and Derek get along pretty well.
Oh, we get along great.
And he's trying to be nonchalant, oh, what are you talking about?
When's the last time you were over at Derek's house?
I went over there a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago.
Do you remember what day it was that you went over there and did that?
Yeah, it was Georgia, Florida.
Georgia, Florida. So
It was Georgia, Florida. It was right before the game.
So did you go inside, then let yourself in?
No.
Florida, Georgia is sort of the secular holiday of Jacksonville. Everything shuts down for that weekend.
The game was on Saturday, the day of the murder. Lance has been around long enough with Derek, worked around Derek long enough, he knows the schedule too. Derek is gone for that 24-hour period. His wife was home by herself.
How about you and Kim?
We get along fine.
Okay, you ever had any problems with her?
Mm-mm.
No, nothing like that? Okay. All right.
No, pretty much get along with everybody.
Pretty long, okay. What if I told you I didn't believe all your story?
On what story?
Well,
On what part of the story don't you believe?
The next follow-up question he invoked, and he asked for an attorney, and at that point, we had to stop the interview.
I'm not saying anything else.
okay. Good luck to you.
With Kirkpatrick refusing to cooperate, investigators must find another way to prove he was inside the house that day.
Lance was smart enough to know when to shut up that night. But at this point, when we weren't talking to Lance, we already had DNA foreign to Kim on her body.
The sheriff's office went about getting DNA from Lance Kirkpatrick's father.
The similarity is overwhelming.
In the quintillion, sextillion, it's like huge numbers, like 2 and 3 times the number of people on Earth. The fact that we had really significant DNA and the fact that he denied going in there was a critical lie that we were able to say, yeah, we got our man.
This not only confirms Kirkpatrick as the killer, but also clears the one remaining suspect, Brian Kiefer. For detectives, Kirkpatrick's movements in the hours before the murder suggest he had a sinister plan in mind.
Lance had, gone out that Friday night with somebody else's car to buy drugs and didn't come back with what he was supposed to come back with. He left to try to go make things right. The one thing he knows is the Dorseys. And he knows how to get into that community. He knows how to get into the house. Lance has been around long enough with Derek, worked around Derek long enough, he knows the schedule. Derek's gone for that 24-hour period. His wife was home by herself. Lance knows that. I think he sat across the street, waited for Derek to leave to go to work that morning. I think shortly thereafter, he went over to the house, initially looked under that dog for the key, let himself in with the key.
That's probably when Kim Dorsey heard him.
He basically lit into her physically, and it just went downhill from there.
The turmoil that she was going through, just a desperate picture of a woman trying to escape. I just couldn't imagine like the terror that she was experiencing.
Despite overwhelming evidence, Lance Kirkpatrick pleads not guilty.
Lance's version was that he and Kim Dorsey were lovers, and that he had gone to her house to have sex with her, and that after they had sex, Kim Dorsey started getting mad at him because he had helped set her husband up with other women, and that enraged Kim Dorsey, and she picked up a gun and started firing at him in a rage. And that everything that happened afterwards was him basically trying to fight back in self-defense.
Self-defense is I punch you and I try to get away from you. I don't beat you with a pool cue till I break the pool cue and half stab you in the neck and tie you up. That's not self-defense. That's a bunch of nonsense.
The jury finds him guilty of first-degree murder. He's sentenced to life without parole. He remains eligible for appeal.
Life without parole is a long time to sit there. Ultimately, you know, it's about Kim here. You know, what happened to her in her house, that shouldn't happen to anybody.
I felt like I did Kim Dorsey justice. It's always a mixed feeling having to put all those facts and evidence out in front of their family, but you know, now they know what happened to her and they knew that she was a fighter. I think that meant a lot to them, that she didn't go quietly. She fought with every cell in her body.